These are spontaneous adventures. To help us, we have our story cubes. These helped us in the last video to decide the direction of the story. They were like guideposts, or I suppose you could say candles as well. Let's get them out and get started on our story. We'll set the box to the side. We won't need that. We'll set the plastic holder to the side. And now we have our 3 die, but not just any ordinary die. There are no numbers on these die. There are pictures. For example, this one. This is of a lighthouse. This is of a well. This is of a fairy or a moth or a butterfly. Take your pick. These 3 die. These 3 die will light our way as we roll in order to be guided down this random story. Shall we begin? Indeed, without further ado, let's roll 1 die at a time. Look at that. The well. That is an excellent one. This will be fun. Set it over here. If we get one that we got last time, i.e. if we get the same slide as in the last video, we'll re-roll. That seems fair. A witch, perhaps, or a beggar, or a haggard mage. That one's more open to interpretation, I think. And now for our final roll. A wolf howling at the moon. Is it a regular wolf or a werewolf? We shall see. Alright, let us begin. Once upon a time, in a land far, 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 extremely far away, there lived a wolf. This was not a werewolf per se, but this wolf was no ordinary wolf. This wolf understood speech. The wolf lived in a wolf pack of other wolves. They knew several languages. They were intelligent. And, as befits wolf, sometimes ferocious if crossed, they tended to stick to themselves this wolf, who we will call Blue, because there's blue in this candle. Blue, the wolf, longed for adventure, but not of the typical wolf kind that his peers went on. He didn't care about scaring children in the wood. He didn't really care to howl at the moon. What Blue wanted was to be a human. So, one day, as Blue was on the border of the land of the wolf pack, he saw a passing peddler wheeling a cart by a horse. The sign on the cart said, "We can give you your heart's desire for a bit of coin," as always, right? Unfortunately, the wolves did not trade in currency or coin. This caused Blue to have a conundrum. He had no coin. How could he get his heart's desire? In whatever form it took, Blue did not know. From the peddler. Blue decided the only logical thing was to bound up the peddler and ask. So, Blue, who had been hiding behind some bushes, leaped out and sprang right in front of the peddler. Blue was not meaning it in a horrible, mean way. However, that action caused the peddler to be startled and to fall down, and unfortunately hit his head, which knocked him out. Blue thought, "Oh no, I might have killed this peddler." So he went up to him and gave him a little sniff. He could feel that the peddler was still breathing, and he gave a long wolf sigh of relief. He pawed at the peddler, trying to get him to wake up. It didn't work. So Blue, a bit naughty, decided to rummage through the cart of wares. Also, you're probably wondering what happened to the horse that the peddler had been pulling and leading that was attached to the cart. Well, unfortunately, or fortunately in this case, the horse was blind and didn't have a good sense of smell. So conveniently, the horse stayed put with the cart. As Blue rummaged through the various bottles, various spells and scrolls of spells, he came across one that said, "Make me a human like you." Perfect, thought Blue. He uncorked the bottle, and, without giving it more thought than he perhaps should have, he drank the entire contents. /horror/delight. He had turned into the peddler. He opened his mouth to speak, and his voice sounded human. He looked at his feet and took off his peddler shoes to see his human toes. Then Blue looked once again at his own old wolf body. He decided to put it into the back of the cart. So, Blue did just that. He picked up his body and trudged it to the back of the cart. Not being one for goodbyes and sentimental, and because he was now a human peddler that the other wolves would not care for, Blue decided he must leave and follow the path of the road that the peddler was going to be on. Before Blue came along and ousted the peddler out of his body and took it. Blue led the horse along with the cart. He went on like this for quite a while until it was nearly sunset, and he came to a village. There were not that many people in the streets. They'd finished their hard day's work in the field and were going home or to the local tavern. As Blue entered the main road to the village, a little beggar boy looked up at him curiously. He pointed a finger. "Aren't you the one in the wanted posters? I can get the reward." And the little beggar boy scampered off toward the town law, which was in fact a knight. This made Blue, wolf turned merchant, who was apparently wanted for something, a little scared. He turned around as quickly as he could in the opposite direction that the little beggar boy had run. He looked around frantically for any wanted poster so he could see the extent of the crime. On a tree, just by the border of the village, he saw it, a picture of the peddler, aka himself now, with large printed words saying "wanted," "alive," responsible for starting the last war, stealing, and being a general trickster. Crimes all punishable by death. Blue was very sad and anxious, and as he passed the wanted poster, turned around and saw in the distance that the beggar boy had fetched the knight, aka the law of the village. Blue ran with all speed, with the horse and with the cart, as fast as he could. But the cart was heavy and loaded with wares. Blue wished he had time to stop and search for a counterspell, but there was no time for that, and Blue had, unwisely some might say, not bothered to take inventory of the peddler's wares prior to starting off on his rather ill-conceived adventure. As the knight and the beggar boy kept getting closer, shortening the distance between them, Wolf decided it wasn't worth keeping track of the cart and that blind, poor-smelling horse. He let them go, and he ran, dashing off the road into the wood on the side. The knight and the beggar came upon the cart and the horse. for they were not fooled. They had seen the peddler, aka Blue, who they didn't know was a wolf, dash off to the wood. They followed in pursuit, trying to locate the tracks because the wood was dense and they could not see very far ahead. Wolf ran on his human legs, wishing to be a wolf once again, hating the peddler, hating himself. He was running so fast, he did not see until it was too late that there was a well right there. It was a little old. It hadn't been used in a while. Part of the side was gone. The stones had fallen away. And that was the exact spot that Blue fell down, tripped over the bottom stone lying there, and tumbled headlong into the well. This circumstance wasn't much better. Now he was stuck in a well. Blue was in a well, and not his wolf self, who, surprisingly dexterous, might have been able to climb out on all the crevices. But the peddler's body was rather old and worn out. Blue scrunched down into that cold, yucky, stinky, dirty water, and he quietly waited. He heard the night and the beggar boy pass by, not even looking down the well. Blue began to cry. He hated himself for wanting to be human. He hated himself for this peddler who was a very bad person indeed, and wanted. He was also rather annoyed of all the humans and of all the spells that had been that peddler. Blue sat there at the bottom of the well for hours. It was dark, dark in the dead of the night. He could hear the sounds of owls above his head, hooting. He began to cry. Long, long tears. He cried so much. The well was getting fuller and fuller. He began to dread water. He watched as his frail human hands dreaded water and tried to help grip onto the sides of the well whenever there was a crevice. He cried more and more, expecting to drown. He cried until he could not cry anymore. And as he kept paddling, he began to feel different. The moonlight was starting to shine into the well, and he could see just ever so slightly that the human hands of the peddler were now wolf hands. He gasped, and he cried out in an extremely wolfish cry to the moon, howling ferociously, the most ferocious howl a wolf has ever done in the history of the world. With his wolf body and the increasingly rising water of the tears and the sticky water combination, he eventually else to say about that. It's offering some